second round of the playoffs. They were the up-and-coming team. Some thought they could contend for a championship last year. Injuries a big part of derailing that, but they were also missing a bit of that spark as McDyess knocks down the shot. What was missing from that team last year that they had 2 years ago? And here comes Hill. Mason Jr. Well, they were 1 of 8 from downtown. He hit a lot of threes last year. And the Spurs go up by 11. Now an 18-1 run going back to the first quarter. Armstrong. That's 14 straight misses for New Orleans. Jefferson drives in. Hill to the basket. Flips it up and in. Pretty move from George Hill.
I really like this young fella. How many young guys can impact the game without scoring? He does it in so many ways.
A 20-1 run for the San Antonio Spurs. And their bench just adding to what the starters began.
Ability to get into the paint and make a play, finish over big men coming over. Outstanding job for the bench of the Spurs.
All right, Stuart. New Orleans actually led by 6 early. Now they're down by 13. Only 5 players remain from San Antonio's last title team in 2007, including a number of offseason acquisitions. Jefferson, McDyess, and Blair will all be in the rotation. Ratliff and Keith Bogan's kind of wild cards will get some playing time as well. And they've done well early.
Well, absolutely. You talk about Richard Jefferson. They want him to take pressure off of the big 3 scoring. And how about Blair? Great job on the offensive and defensive boards. And McDyess, reliable. Big guy that can stretch the defense and knock it down the mid-range jump.
Greg Popovich telling us before the game, not just that we needed new blood. He felt they needed new blood. Not just you needed to get younger and more athletic. We just needed more talent. He said some of the other teams in the West just became more talented down their roster. And that's why Popovich and R.C. Buford spent some extra money. And for the first time in a long time, Spurs over the salary cap. Bobby Brown misses. Here comes Mason.
And it wasn't their money they were spending. So you have to give credit to Peter Holt, the owner of the Spurs, who allowed this small market team to go over the luxury tax to try to go for it once again as Duncan gets older. They only have so many more trips to try to, or chances to try to get back to the promised land.
And there's R.C. Buford, who, again, one of those guys who's under the radar. And he's been working with Greg Popovich. He's been a GM since 2002. And him and Popovich have a great relationship. And it's amazing what they've been able to do, how competitive all these years with not going over the cap. Obviously, when you, like Tim Duncan and Popovich, be the first one to tell you, when he lands in your lap and he's your guy, you can build around. But it's still, in this day and age, the way they've been able to do it. And that's Peter Holt, the owner and chairman.
You know, Coach touched on it. Tim Duncan lands in your lap, but they've done an outstanding job of putting pieces around him and then realizing, like they did last year, okay, it's time to retool. We have to increase the talent level that comes in off the bench, which Byron Scott is learning now. They had the game in control until he decided to go to his bench.
Boy, the Hornets, there's an understatement, are desperate for a bucket. Geilich struggling, 3 on the shot clock. That's 16 straight misses.
Well, and, you know, the Hornets are another small market team, and when they signed Peja Stojakovic, and he had very productive first couple years for him, but then he's felled by these injuries as Blair works the board for another basket. You have so much of your money wrapped up in an injured player, it's very hard to overcome that if you're a small market team.
Paul is waiting to come in as finally a basket. Okafor puts it in and is fouled. They had missed 16 in a row. A 23-1 run finally comes to an end.
Pick and roll player that Tyson Chandler is. Tyson Chandler got so many baskets with Paul on lobs up to the rim. That's really not Okafor's type of game.
Jefferson finding Blair. Beautiful ball movement. And the new Spurs look sharp. How about Blair? 6 points, 6 rebounds off the bench in just 6 minutes.
That's the beast of burden right there.
Let's check in with Doris.
Guys, Dewan Blair was projected on the internet as a first-round draft choice, so he leaves Pittsburgh early. But you can imagine his disappointment on draft night. He watched it in a hotel room with his family. When the 17th pick went by and he wasn't picked, he went straight for the weight room. He said, I figured I might as well get to work right then and there. It's paying off, guys.
They had one of those physicals at the pre-draft camp as Parker throws it out. Bonner open for three. That's good. And the Spurs pouring it on. It's an 18-point lead. But at the pre-draft camp, they found out that Blair, he didn't have an ACL in either knees. He had surgery back when he was a kid in high school. So it scared off some teams, not the Spurs. And he has started his pro career in grand fashion. Few too many fouls, but the energy and hustle has been tremendous. Greg Popovich coaching the young Blair, who's only 20 years old. Again, 2 years at Pitt. He grew up just a hop skipping away from the campus, about 600 yards from the Pitt campus.
But Mike, a guy like Blair, if the collective bargaining agreement stays the same, it's going to have if he's productive as a second-round pick, you get to unrestricted free agency earlier than the first-round picks. It could be a benefit for him. And I want to say this, all those guys, like Doris says, are all convinced that they're going in the first round. Do they realize there's only X amount of first-round picks? 60, 70 guys are always saying, I'm a first-round pick. Who's telling you that?
There's only 30 of them. As Parker looks for an opening. And that's what Parker has become so deadly in recent years. Talk about guards who coming up on the midway point of the second. Bonner wide open for three. Duncan the offensive board. Duncan already with 9. Finley answers back with a three. A 19-point lead for San Antonio.
Times to get into his game, but they're so limited offensively without a perimeter wing scorer that he has to do so much.
Finley again. Michael Finley, his second three-pointer. Ginobili lines it up. That's another three for the half.
But you've got to stay disciplined if you're Tony Parker. Try to get a little closer, but those are shots that you have to give Chris Paul, because if you play him too close, he's going to break down your entire defense.
A lot of threes for the Spurs. Bonner.
And this is what I always laugh about. Superior shot to the 17-foot pull-up.
Parker foul on the way to the basket. Hornets trying to get back into it. Tony Parker and the Spurs went out to a 19-point lead, but this is 6th year in New Orleans with Parker.
He took over a very bad New Jersey team, turned it around and won with great moves by Rod Thorne, his general manager. Then he came to Flip Saunders, had a great line. He said he wants him to attack even more than he's ever attacked. I think that's great. And you can't underestimate getting a quality coach like Flip Saunders into Washington as well.
Parker inside. Nice move from Parker. Yeah, I think Saunders is going to help them.
Coach, they had a tough year last year due to injury in Washington. That set up Eddie Jordan for failure in his final season in Washington.
Jefferson on the break. Can't get it to go. Rebound. McDyess. Parent and a foul. The new Spurs making an impact.
Last night I heard Charles Barkley talk about big guys running the floor. This is why you do it. Not about you scoring, but second chance opportunities. McDyess runs the floor, gets rewarded with the putback and the foul.
And it's just as important to run it defensively. And if you saw right there, David West was late coming back into...
Look at Duncan. Giving some lessons to the rookie as we wind down the first half. McDyess inside, takes his time. But the bench for San Antonio outscores the bench for New Orleans 30-0. Ginobili looked impressive, and